It's show day today, and we will spend the day testing all the equipment, making sure everything's functional. We will test all the fly rig. I'm going to fly like Batman today, which is going to be pretty wild.
So mixed within the stage, we have some sections that are video floor and some sections that are just regular decks. So in the center here where we have the revolve, there's this entire panel is actually a video deck, but rather than custom make that part of it, we just take a whole panel that's video, custom make the covering so that this is wood side covering, this side's polycarb. The pieces on the inside that do have the cut edges to them are obviously custom pieces that fit with the revolve we were talking about later or earlier, and the lift that happens in the middle of the stage.
Okay, we are clear all the ground. Good for a lift.
Pumps are running. Well, essentially what we're doing now, we have the scissor lift unit, the twin scissor lift on the in the substage. The turntable on top of it is a separate entity, so what we've just done is marry up those so that it's now landed, and we've now removed all the locating pins, and we're beginning to lift the turntable. So we're going to take it up to 4 feet height, so we can do the internal wiring for the rotation inside it. And ready to move.
You're clear to move.
It's up, substage! Scissor lift's moving!
That's all yours, guys. Pumps are off, and we can put the bars in.
Bars going in.
Right, so now what they're doing, we're installing load bars inside so that it can't possibly drop while people are working underneath it. We've got to remove all of the external wheels from the circumference of it. We have a pneumatic system internal, so we're just wiring the last bits of that, and then we'll do a rotation test, and then return it down to 0. Make sure that everything's aligned properly, and then we can actually use it to level the stage.
Lift rotating!
Because we have the turntable and it has interlocked pins in order to stop the turntable moving out of alignment or lifting, because you have a moving piece within the stage, it actually makes that quite a difficult thing. If that's slightly out, the track will actually hit it, won't work, and at the speeds we actually run at, which is kind of 15 feet a second with the Batmobile, it'll destroy the stage. So we started out with actually prepping all of that, with making sure that that was all aligned, then actually run the Batmobile, work it up to speed, start slowly, get faster and faster, and ensure that all the limits. So we have physical limitations downstage, which will cut the electric, cut the actual power, and you know, basically emergency stops at both ends of this. Confirm that everything there's working, and then you can run at full speed with this.
Basically, this is a pretty big piece of machinery, pretty expensive piece of machinery. So we want to test it, make sure that everything is working properly. We test the skate beforehand so that the machinery that's running it up and down moves. And then we're going to drive this out, and we'll test the revolve to make sure that that's moving appropriately as well. And you know, it's the Batmobile. Everybody expects it to be awesome, so we got to make sure that it is awesome.
And Batmobile's online.
Sounds good.
And Batmobile moving in 3, 2, 1, moving. Ready to drive back on your call.
We are clear to return.
Moving.
Thank you, guys. You can kill that now.
Along with testing the Batmobile, we also have to test the winches. We have 2 winches up in the air. We've got to make sure that they track and fly.
We We have the tracking, which moves at 12 feet a second, is what it's limited at the moment. And we get that up to full speed. If there's any track misalignments, it's going to stop them dead in the air. The last thing you want is someone to be flying at that kind of speed and just end up swinging and just being left completely stranded in midair.
And we figure who better else to test it than Winky.
Hey, buddy, we got Winky in a Spectra harness, and we're going to fly him. I just wanted to know if you wanted to join us.
Thank you.
Copy, right here.
Of course he'll want to join. He'll want to make fun.
Yeah, of course he does.
Kidding me? This is like being fucking tarred and feathered.
Actually, yeah, that's the thing we do.
Do we have any water guns and confetti cannons?
Yes, but
So, yeah, where is it?
CO2 gun as well. Get that in.
Yeah, I'm going to need pyro here.
Along with testing the Batmobile, we also have to test the winches. We have 2 winches up in the air. We've got to make sure that they track and fly. And we figure who better else to test it than Winky.
As long as you're happy and comfortable, you're good to go.
Yeah, actually, you know, I could give you a little bit of money to drop me and just take me out of this misery. How much would that cost? I've got a couple hundred in cash.
We're at the upstage end right now with the bat winch. And as we were saying, the 2 winches share the same track, so they can't bypass each other, but they can operate within a very close distance to each other and work at the same time. So what we have going on is within the winch here, which tracks up and down, is a drum of cable that's going to the 2 separate lines here. Right now, we just have these counterweights on the lines. Once we have a performer in place, the performers are just clipped into that, so it's very low profile. But there's a bunch of different things happening within the track system here as well. We have these 2 rails on the outside with a series of casters inside, which is what the winch itself is moving on. We have the next 2 tracks on either side, which behind the winch has all the cable that's tracking with it, and that's what's tracking on those 2 positions. On the inside one here is kind of our tooth drive track, and in the middle of the winch is a large sprocket that's working its way along that track, using that as its position reference, as well as what it uses to drive itself up and down.
Are we just going up and down like a yo-yo?
And moving in 3, 2, 1, moving.
Fantastic. So should I just stay here now and you guys can go home?
Okay, ready for down in 3,
2.
There's 3 different Batmans. The only calibration you have to do is for the height of Batman. When he gets down to the ground, you have to re-zero that. So, you know, as far as how much line is in or out.
You drop out of here first, or
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll start tracking forward a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. I don't have my wings. Too short.
Tell him to commit.
It's like a roller coaster.
What Winky actually did today was we call them the induction flights. Any new flyer on the show will have to go through that before we put them in an actual tracking move or anything, so they know what it does, how it feels, how the winch actually works for them.
It's a little bit like driving. You know, you have your lessons and you learn how to drive, and then you pass and then you learn how to drive. You know what I mean? And I think it's very unique, I think, to the individual and how their body makeup allows the movement. We can't just, you know, jump about on this stuff and not, you know, be very, you know, nonchalant about it. I mean, you've really got to be aware of everything that's going on, and of course the crew that are supporting you to translate the performance, you know, which without them we would have nothing.
In every venue we always do a tech run, because obviously moving, dismantling the set and rebuilding it every week means that we just need to test everything. We can't afford not to, because we don't want anything to happen on opening night. Our resident director will give some notes to the company.
Today's tech rehearsal actually was extraordinarily smooth. There was just a couple very small little points and they were just like spotting cues or something like that. But we've gotten our system down pretty good. We tech in an afternoon, and 3 or 4 hours later we open the show.
Then it's full steam ahead for our opening night.
a lot of people really care about their characters in Batman, and they have such expectation for what their villains should be, and you'd really be failing if you didn't steal the show. I mean, the Joker's such an amazing character, and in this show you've given me a few toys to play with.
That Joker mask is pretty strong.
It's pretty awesome, and I get, you know, all these acrobats who are my henchmen, and it would be a complete dereliction of duty if I didn't steal the show.
I don't even know how they get that on a truck, to be honest.
It's all broken down into bits, isn't it? But
yeah. Is it?
How's it built?
Two
Locked
trucks.
together.
Wow.
All fiberglass pieces.
And then it's animated by several gymnasts that parts the eyes, the hair.
That's really the brilliant part. Those teeth
Teeth are great.
It's a great surprise.
Essentially, we actually do nothing during the show because no one watches us. No one actually watches us. Everyone's watching the screen, or the acrobats and the gymnasts with two little ants on the stage. What do they do? All the noise coming out of their mouth.
For a person like myself who grew up in the theater and is kind of watching this assimilation of theater into touring rock and roll, into spectacular, into Cirque du Soleil, and kind of mash it all together to kind of come up with a new concept for a production was pretty interesting.
One of the most amazing things about Batman, unlike any other hero, he's just like us. And he's just honed his mind and his spirit through determination. Underneath all that is a man who has a heart, who lost his parents at a very early age. So if we can tell that story with that heart, with all the action packed on top of it, it's pretty spectacular.
We hope that the audience basically come and they get immersed into this sort of comic book that comes to life on stage.
Pre-show announcements. Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Batman Live.
It's showtime!
It's a very physical show. You know, it's all live as well. We've all got mics, so there's that part of it as well. Even though we've done this show 220 times, it's every night you've just got to be really on it because things can change even when you're doing the show. You're interacting with a Batmobile that sometimes has a mind of its own, but we'll probably cut that out.
No, it's true.
It does
I'll
have a
show you
mind
that
of
in the
its
show
own.
report.
Things like the Batmobile are cued by myself because obviously if someone was in the way accidentally or someone ran onto the stage, but just before the Batmobile was about to come on, you've got the control over whether you're happy to send it on or not.
That's what we're trying to do with this show, is to be a real family show, to appeal to the kids, make it a really good first introduction to Batman and the Batman brand, but also to honour everything that Batman has stood for.
I mean, we have great audience satisfaction when they come and see the show because it kind of over-delivers. They're not expecting it to be as good as it is. Well, I guess they're not because you can't explain it before they get here.
On a night when this arena's full with, you know, thousands of people and I get to fly in as Batman, it's you know, the reaction's fantastic. They're very vocal here. And yeah, it's cool. We get to live a dream every night.
You don't get to leave the dream every night.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Every other night.
Every other night. I get to leave the dream every night.
As long as these buildings exist all around the world, it's up to the buildings and the promoters to put asses in seats, and this is another way of doing it if it's done correctly. And there's no doubt with Spider-Man playing in Broadway, with Batman playing in arena, with How to Train a Dragon in an arena, it's not going to stop. You know, they're just playing around with it now, and it's going to continue, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to get better. It's going to become more of a spectacular. These guys will be competing with each other just the same way the artists are competing with each other to have better shows.
This started 3.5 years ago, and I was looking for the perfect family arena show. Top of my list was Batman.
This is Nick's baby.
I presented this amazing world-class creative team.
The Batman show is, I think we're all pretty proud of, very innovative. For a kid's show, it's pretty spectacular.
One of the things about working with Tait is that they are all about making it happen.
We don't like telling people that's not possible. We always just say anything's possible.
It's like a 3D comic on stage coming to life. It's fast, visually exciting, and every picture tells a story.
It's traveled all over Europe, it's gone to South America, and it just went through our Lidditz facility again for refurbishment before going to Vegas.
We know the staff, we know the venue, we know what to expect, and we just are looking forward to actually performing in the venue with an audience.
The most challenging part of the Batman show would be the grid. It's a huge structure, 100,000 pounds, that flies and has integrated high-speed personnel flying tracks, spot winches, and acrobatic entrance points.
Grid moving! We're building 2 stage sets. There's one stage set that hangs from the ceiling, and there's another theatrical stage set that is built on the floor.
There is no other company in the world who could do what Tait Towers did for us.
Tait Towers started here in America in about 1979. It was a lighting company at first, and it kind of morphed into a staging company, but it grew exponentially.
Tait Towers has always represented the best in the business.
What we're building either enables the show to happen or not. We thrive on complications.
25 years ago, musicians were making money selling records, and now they're making money selling seats. And that's why we're making stage sets.
Like any organization, we have our moments, we have our drama.
It's full on, because there's a deadline that we're up against all the time. There's no showing up a day late.
In this business, you're only as good as your last show.
The grid system is all put together. We've got the catwalk system in, everything's underneath it. The lights are out, lights are on, lights have been tested, which will give us the space we need to roll the stage in and then start into building the rest of the stage.
In the center of the stage, there's a revolve 16-foot circle that is video all on top, so you can put film content on it. And there's a track in it so the Batmobile can drive up and down stage. It lifts up and down and rotates. You can raise the Batmobile up and make it look cool.
Okay then, gentlemen.
Ian and the guys are starting in on the revolve. Ian's one of my carpenters. He's the guy kind of running things with this particular part of the stage build.
Okay, and we're going to go on to these ones here, guys, okay? Right, we're going to get these bits off next, guys. These heavy bits. And the next ones, guys, are going to be the scissor lifts.
This is one of the more complicated pieces we have in the whole show that the guys have put together. So we've got a scissor lift, we've got a revolve, we've got video staging, and we can see kind of the spine piece behind us here, which is what the drive track we use in the entire stage. But that also has to lift and revolve and everything else. So there's a whole lot going on in this piece once it all gets put together.
The whole thing twists on itself, so it's really hard to get level. But we should be good here. It's not a bad place. The floor's pretty good.
The center section is the part that actually revolves, but because of the way that we have the Batmobile track that runs through the stage out of either end of it, there's some also highly customized pieces that fit either side of it. And if we look back at the revolve, we can see the ends of the track here are going to mate to the ends of the track in the stage later on. As well as they'll finish building the square. The rest of this section all the way around it is the base piece that they start, and then they'll start building the rest of the stage from that.
Pretty complicated piece.
It is really, I mean, that's what we were saying.
Probably the most complicated piece of the stage set, isn't it?
Yeah, between the hydraulic lift and the turntable and the video floor and the bat track, there's a whole lot going on.
There's always a mention of it in the show report.
There's always one little thing here, one little thing there, yeah.
There's a show report that comes out every day that says what show we've done in terms of how many shows we've done. It says what city we're in. It says, you know, what time the show was. It lists any cast members that may have been hurt or sick or aren't on deck. And then it goes through anything that may have misfired during the show, anything. It may not be under my jurisdiction, it may be a lighting cue, it may be a sound issue, it may be a video issue, it may be our issue, but it is duly noted and it is emailed to the world, meaning anybody that had anything to do with this show. Like if I'm getting one, obviously they're sending it to everybody. And really what I do is immediately scan to the bottom where it'll always say audience reaction, wonderfully received or something like that. All the comments, all the shit will be before it. So I just scroll down the end and I can just tell if there's a lot of print at the bottom, it was a bad show the night before. But if it says audience reaction, a stunning reaction, well received by all, then you know you did a great show.
There's a deck track that goes through the stage for the Batmobile that is running upstage to downstage at 16 feet per second, carrying a 2-ton piece of scenery. As it's going upstage and downstage, it's also rotating. The important element was making it so that it looked as realistic as possible. You didn't want something that's very statically tracked out in a straight path and then turns around, but you can't, at the same time, you can't have a car that's driving around free on stage. It all has to be very controlled and it all has to be very choreographed so that it's exactly the same every night because people are riding in it.
I focused on the Batmobile track, so watching that thing run is pretty satisfying because it was a big hurdle for me. It was a 2,500-pound model car of the Batmobile that was designed by a Formula One car designer.
I love the Batmobile. It's so cool. It's so cool. I'm a huge Formula One fan. I love our Batmobile. It's awesome looking. It's deadly.
Styled by one of the real guys,
Styled by Professor Gordon Murray, who designed the McLaren F1. It's a beautiful bit of kit, and we've got 2 of them.
It was about 50 horsepower servo drive, and we designed this kind of tank-looking thing of a timing belt, like a Goodyear timing belt from a motorcycle, and it makes this gnarly sound when it gets up to speed. It actually kind of sounds like a motorcycle. So when we were testing it for the first time, I was kind of afraid it was going to eat itself, because you never really know. You have faith, but not tons of. And so we were running it for the first time, and it was just, that was really satisfying, actually seeing it get up to speed and stop and work well.
We've got the stage built, the video walls up and ready and done. We're finishing up some curtains. They're on stage finishing up the last little bits of some props and pieces for that. But it's time to start testing out the flying system, testing out the hydraulics, doing all the tests we have to do after we move everything.